Hi, I'm Andrew Levine, the CEO of Koinos Group, and in today's video, I want to explore the idea of the ultimate utility token because I think that could be incredibly valuable when we're trying to evaluate different projects and different protocols, because if we have an idea of what the ultimate expression of the utility token is, then we can use that to measure other utility tokens against. So I've got my new whiteboard, which I'm taking for a test spin today. And we're just going to explore this idea in a somewhat free-form manner. I'm going to bring my microphone a little bit closer. All right, so let's talk about what is utility. Utility equals usefulness. What can you use this thing for? So let's start with something kind of obvious, something everybody knows. And let's start with Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin a utility token? We're going to start with Bitcoin. We're going to start with Ethereum. And then we're going to use what we get from that exploration to generalize and come up with our ideal. So with Bitcoin, right, what can you use Bitcoin tokens to do? Well, you can use them to pay fees on the Bitcoin network. And fees to do what? Well, to transfer tokens, specifically Bitcoin tokens. That's it. But I think there's something interesting when you think about fees and utility. Does holding Bitcoin itself guarantee that you always have a use for it? For example, what if the fee for a transaction is higher than the amount of Bitcoin that you have in your possession? Well, then you can't use Bitcoin. It has no utility for you at that moment. And so I think the way to think about this is that when we think about usefulness, we think about the right to use something. If something has utility, I have the right to use it. Right to use. For example, if I own a plot of land, I have the right to use that land however I wish. I can use it for productive activity. I can farm it. I can build a factory on it and produce goods on it. I could rent it out to other people and collect rent on it. That's very useful. But when the only thing I can do is pay fees, then the fees become a limiting factor, and I don't really have a right to use. I have a right to pay fees, which is kind of a funny way to operate. But it kind of makes sense that they implemented it this way, because what they were really trying to do was just come up with a decentralized way for regulating the use of the network. And since they were creating a currency, it made perfect sense. It was a very good, efficient, simple model to require that in order to use the network, you pay in the fees. Does that make it a utility token? Does it make it the ultimate utility token? I would say yes, it is a utility token because you can sometimes use it to use the network. But the ultimate, I would say no, for two reasons. Because ultimate can't use sometimes And it's very limited in what you can do. Even when you can use it, can't do much. You can only transfer tokens. So let's go to Ethereum. Well, Ethereum is going to give us a similar analysis because it has fees. It doesn't give you a right to anything, same as Bitcoin. So we still have can't use sometimes. But you can do much more. Why can you do much more on Ethereum? Because Ethereum is a general purpose blockchain, which means that it has compute, it has storage, and it has network bandwidth. And these three things are what combine to create a computer. And so that's why we emphasize so frequently the importance that Ethereum is a general purpose computer, and why it has a Turing complete programming language. Why this is so important to just ordinary people out there who don't understand what all these complicated things mean is because when you have a Turing complete programming language, when you are a general purpose computer, these two things go hand in hand, you can effectively do anything. You can compute anything. You can build any kind of application. And so the utility of Ethereum is much greater than Bitcoin, but you're still limited because you by the fees. And this token does not convey a right to use and a guarantee of usefulness. It is a guarantee that you can pay the fees to use it if the fees are low enough. And doesn't feel right, does it? So I think this really highlights, I think we can take what we have here and start to think about this ideal utility token that we're trying to find so that we can measure other projects against. And so as we covered with Ethereum, right, it's great that it's general purpose. Has a Turing complete programming language, but it only has one. It has Solidity. And you have to learn it. So what if you weren't limited like that? What if developers could program in any programming language like C++, like TypeScript, which would make programming on Ethereum accessible to any JavaScript developer, which is the vast majority of developers out there? Wouldn't that be more useful than a general purpose blockchain that only had one poorly designed programming language that has to be learned afresh on top of whatever the developer has already learned? Wouldn't that be more useful? I think so. So let's talk about, let's imagine if any programming language, if developers could use any programming language to write programs on this general purpose blockchain, and we'll call that universal programming. No, let's call it universal language support. I know it sounds crazy, but we're just thinking about the ideal utility token now. Well, let's go back to what the problem was here. So we've covered that it should be general purpose because you don't want it to just be a thing that's all about transferring currencies. Wouldn't it be great if it could be used inside of an infinite variety of applications like in Ethereum. That would be great. Can't use sometimes. That's the thing that we're stuck with here. So, right, we want something that's like owning a piece of land where you have a permanent right to use that land however you wish, whenever you wish. And this presents a unique opportunity for blockchain, right? Because this really highlights the potential of a decentralized system, which is, imagine you could have something that was land-like in that you own it and you can use it however you like, whenever you like. But it's even better than land because A, there's no governmental entity that can come tax it and tell you it doesn't really belong to you, it belongs to this other person. It's instead maintained by this decentralized system that is obeying rules that are written in code and can't be changed except by you as the landholder. And imagine the problem with land is that it's in the real world. It needs to be maintained. It can only do a limited number of things. What if we moved it into the digital realm and now it could be used to do and create anything? Think of the value that can be created, right? And this is the opportunity that blockchain presents. But we're stuck. We're stuck with the fact that these aren't real utility tokens because they're fee tokens. That's what they are. They're fee tokens. So what we want is a token. Let's call it, hypothetically, right, a coin, right? Let's call it coin with a K. And let's say we don't want this coin to be something that you can use occasionally to pay fees. You want this coin to give you a right to the three things that underpin every general purpose computer ever. Compute, the ability to perform computations. Storage, right? You have to store data in a computer. And network bandwidth. There's a D in there. Network bandwidth. So what if there was a token that simply by holding it, you have the permanent right to compute, storage, and bandwidth. In other words, it's a computer. And the more coin you have, more coin, the bigger your computer. And so as you accumulate coin, you accumulate the rights to more compute, more storage, more bandwidth, the ability to use a decentralized computer more and more and more over time, however you see fit, whenever you see fit. Wouldn't that be the ultimate utility token? Well, many of you probably guessed by now that coin is not a hypothetical token. It is a real token. It is the currency of the Koinos blockchain. And it was designed this way very intentionally because we understood the problems with Bitcoin and Ethereum. We were the core development team behind the Steam blockchain, which experimented with a lot of these ideas, with some of these ideas. So Steam, and now Hive is a fork of Steam. And Steam was a great blockchain. Hive is a great blockchain. Is it the ultimate utility token? I'm not saying that this is the only thing that matters in the world, by the way. This isn't a knock on Steam or Hive, but is it the ultimate utility token? Well, we can go back to our earlier analysis to answer that question, because you can't do much. You certainly can't do anything, because Steam and Hive are much more similar in design to Bitcoin than they were to Ethereum. It wasn't general purpose. And we certainly know what we're talking about there. My co-founders at Koinos Group were and remain the largest code contributors to these two blockchains. Again, we think they're great. They're social blockchains, and by holding Steam and Hive, you can choose to stake those tokens, and then after you stake them, you have the ability to use those blockchains to post and vote and participate in governance and a whole bunch of things. But you have to make this conscious decision to stake. And simply acquiring the token, it doesn't give you a right to do anything you want whenever you want. There are limitations. There are fees. You have to pay fees in order to buy an account. But principally, you're limited by the features and it not being a general purpose blockchain. Again, I mean, this was a great experimentation into and moving towards the ultimate utility token. That's where we developed the resource credit system that actually underpins the Koinos blockchain. But what we did with Koinos is we ported that RC system over into a new, advanced, general purpose blockchain, so that, and we eliminated the need to acquire the tokens, consciously determine how many you're going to stake so that you can get the ability. That's not, to me, there's too much friction in there. There's too many limitations for us to say this is the ultimate utility token. Great utility token, definitely a utility token, but the ultimate token, well, that's exactly what we designed Coin to be. Now, this is my analysis. This is our perspective. This is representative of how we thought about Koinos and the design of Koinos. But you be the judge. You go out there and look at different protocols and you assess for yourself where those projects fall on the spectrum of utility, using these concepts that I've proposed here. I think we have a good tool that we can use to take to projects, analyze those projects, so we can make better decisions going forward. So I hope you liked this video. If you want to learn more about my company, Koinos Group, head on over to koinos.group. If you want to learn more about Koinos and the ultimate utility token coin, head on over to koinos.io, and please subscribe and follow us on social media. Have a good one.